Coming up today on the Leipzig Loko, we had two changes of personnel around transfer deadline day. We'll let you guys know who is in and who is out, and as well as that, we take on Mainz in the Bundesliga before playing our first game in the Champions League. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 102 of the Leipzig Loko with Lokomotive Leipzig here on Sean Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up today, a couple of transfers, and also we take on Mainz in the Bundesliga and Legia Warszawa in our first game in the Champions League. So if you're looking forward to that coming up, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But in yesterday's episode, we did recap the transfers that we did do over the off-season, also played our first game of the Bundesliga season, and that was against Hanover. If you missed that episode, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Since then, we did play two games before transfer deadline day for mixed results away from home and at home. First up, we hosted Eintracht Frankfurt. Of course, our former senior affiliate got off to a decent start here. Only about 10 minutes into the game, we were awarded a penalty, and Matthias Tell did put that away from there. We certainly were on the front foot, but couldn't quite put these guys to bed until deep in injury time. Matthias Tell, with a little bit of help from the inside of the post, sneaks that one and he picks up a double to make sure that we pick up a 2-0 win. So it was 2 wins from our first two games in the Bundesliga, but then we did travel away to take on Wolfsburg, and unfortunately we weren't quite at our best for this away day. Wolfsburg in the green, Perina plays that one back to Svanberg, and Ben Doak gets in behind our defence. I thought he was offside. That was not the case, and he picks up the opening goal around 25 minutes, and then just after half-time, before this, the ball that was contested in the air between one of our players and one of the Wolfsburg ones, that fell very kindly to Wolfsburg, so they could do something on the counter-attack, and it was Sarmiento who put that one away from a diving San Jose. As you can see, not at our best on this day compared to the previous games that we have played so far in the Bundesliga, so we suffer our first loss of the season away at Wolfsburg. To be fair, those guys are a pretty good team, only finished just below us on the Bundesliga table last season, but it does mean early stages we are nice and high up the table, 6 points from our first 3 games. In fifth, so just outside of a Champions League qualifying spot at the moment is Gladbach, Wolfsburg and Dortmund, who do sit above us based on points. Also Bayern Munich with quite a high goal differential. They are also on 6 points, having just been defeated quite heavily by Borussia Dortmund on that most recent match day. So things are going fairly well in the Bundesliga, even though we did suffer that defeat to Wolfsburg last time out. Hopefully we can bounce back from that as we're about to take on Mainz. But off the back of that, we did have transfer deadline day, and we've had two changes of personnel off the back of that one a little bit earlier. In fact, off the back of yesterday's episode, just did realise that there was a player out there who was an upgrade in the right wing position. So we saw that one out, and also a change in left back because someone came back in for Ryan, and this time it was a club that he did want to go to. So first up, Momentous, we found someone a bit better than him. This was a player who popped up on my radar last year when he had a release clause around about £110,000. Unfortunately, at that stage, he chose to go to Inter Milan over us, but he popped back up in the scouting centre and was a lot more interested in joining us. This time we had the spare money off the back of that deal where we did get rid of James Baker and brought in Bandok on loan. So Josip Tezak has joined us as our new starting right winger, albeit he's only just come back from injury the day of this Mainz game, still making his way back yet to actually play a game for us. But he is a big improvement on Momentous, so it did mean that we did let go of him. But look at him on that inside forward on support. He is quite good, very good at finishing. He is a lot more natural as a striker, but we're going to use him on that right wing. Unfortunately, didn't get him last season. It was actually for 88k, so less than that 100k I thought it was, out of the Czech Republic. So Inter Milan do make a big profit on that, but I think he's a really promising player. 18 years old, can become homegrown club and nation in a couple of years' time. Already that value has shot up quite considerably. So Josip Tezak comes in to be our new right wing. We paid around £10 million overall for him, but I think it ended up being about £7.5 million up front. And to make up for that, Momentous was under transfer bid for a while, but he only left on transfer deadline day to go to PAOK. Of course, he's still under somewhat of an injury cloud with that fractured lower arm, so he wasn't actually playing for us that much anyway. Spaljak was starting most games off the back of yesterday's episode, but he goes to PAOK for around about the same price we paid up front for Tezak, who was definitely a better player. We paid 4.8 million for him at the start of the 2029-30 season, so only 2 years ago, and we make a slight profit on that deal to send him to Greece. So we've got Tezak now as our usual starting right winger, albeit that won't be the case for today's episode, and he replaces Musties, who has gone over to PAOK in Greece. And of course, Ryan left us on transfer deadline day. Villarreal did come in for a bid from him this time. He accepted that, unlike the one earlier in the window from Bayer Leverkusen. As you can see, in terms of actual current ability and potential these days, wasn't that highly rated. So we've got for Ryan £11.5 million from Villarreal. Not too bad for a player in that same window that we signed Mustis. We bought for £6 million. So again, a bit of a profit on that deal. And we went in for the player that we were going to sign for him if he did leave to go by Leverkusen, and that was Dirk de Jong out of Cologne. This is quite a good deal because his homegrown nation does just help us fill that spot that Leroy Sané did have here last year. Unfortunately, had to pay a little bit more for him this time after we had to pull out of that deal earlier in the window because Ryan would not leave for Bayer Leverkusen. So unfortunately it cost us just a little bit more this time. If it went for it the first time of asking, it would have cost us only around about 14 million, but unfortunately it got bumped up to 18.5, around about 12.5 of that was up front, but he comes from Cologne, having done a decent job with them over the past couple of seasons. Hopefully he can step in and do a good job here. Also, his contract a little bit more expensive as well than I was hoping for, but in the end, this was a deadline day deal, so we kind of had to push this one through and just had to cop it. But thankfully, with getting rid of both Mustis and Ryan on that day, it did mean we had the wage budget to accommodate that £86,000 per week, but he is our new backup left back in behind Andrew Pittman. Here at Lokomotive Leipzig, also no one came in for Matthias Tell. I say that actually Manchester United did, but thankfully they just fell about £2 million under his release clause. So Matthias Tell is still here at the club, and we have just offered him a contract, so hopefully that will get that release clause up a lot higher. I put it at around about £95 million. He will be on a very big wage when that contract does kick in come the start of next season, but thankfully Matthias Tell, it looks like we'll be staying here at Lokomotive Leipzig off the back of us somehow managing to avoid selling him to RB Leipzig earlier in the window before the season started, because at that point they weren't in the Champions League. Thankfully that was the case, so we have been able to keep our star player here at Lokomotive Leipzig, one of the players who is in the Bundesliga Dream 11. Unfortunately, still got that 50% sell-on fee in that new contract, but obviously with the release clause being nearly doubled, that won't be quite so much of an issue if we do need to replace Matthias. So that's what's happened in and around transfer deadline day, and as well as that, we have got our fixtures for the Champions League. We'll just filter them so we cut out all the other competitions. We'll just sort this one out and make our way down to the bottom. And these are the fixtures that we do have. Quite a nice one first up. Should be one, I think, that we are winning the second game of today's episode against Legia Warszawa out of Poland. We'll check on those guys before we play that game. Off the back of that, things do get a bit tougher. Barcelona will probably come back for that one in tomorrow's episode. Then at the end of September, we take on Southampton. Big gap until the next Champions League games, which are in November, but they are also tough. We take on Napoli as well as Bournemouth, who did just sneak in with a 5th place finish in the Premier League last season. So far they are struggling, but that could be a trickier game than it looks away from home. Then a game that we should be winning at home as we take on Basel in December before 2 tough ones. And we do come back in January, Real Madrid and Juventus. So a couple of tricky ones there, but hopefully we can at least pick up points in those games at home against Legia Warszawa and Basel, and do just enough in those other games to make sure we at the very least make our way through to that first knockout playoff round, through finishing inside of the top 24. So that's what's been happening off the back of yesterday's episode. A couple of changes in personnel, and also got our Champions League fixtures, but hopefully first we can get ourselves potentially back into that top 4 of the Bundesliga as we do take on Mainz. These guys so far have played 3 games. They come into this one off the back of a 4-1 win over Freiburg, but before then they suffered defeats to Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. So the 2 teams that we've played off the back of yesterday's episode. These days Andre Villas-Boas is in charge of them and going with a 4-3-3. But this should be a team that we can beat. These guys predicted to finish 14th on the Bundesliga table. Of course, we were predicted to finish all the way up in 6th, so hopefully we can pick up a decent result here. In terms of injuries, one of our backup centre-backs, Nicolas Montes, has just suffered a bruised knee, but thankfully Billy Camillo has just come back from an injury, so it does mean that he can make his way back onto the bench. So we're pretty close to full strength for this one, but unfortunately also Tizak, our new right-wing signing, is only recommended for 45 minutes, having come back from the injury that he picked up while he was at Inter Milan. So that means that Spaljak keeps his spot at right wing. Also, Vocin comes in at right back for Sika, and also Horvath on the bench because Sika is on a heavy workload. And also Velarde just come back from the injury that he suffered in pre-season, so he is on the bench. Hopefully we can get him into the first team at some stage, the younger version of Amadori. I do think he's a player who could work his way into that first team spot, but for the moment, Amadori a bit more match hardened, so we'll keep with him as our first choice striker. Maybe Velarde can play for us in that first game in the Champions League, but first up, hopefully we can get the job done here over Mainz, wanting a bounce back off the back of that disappointing last out performance against Wolfsburg, even though that was now a couple of weeks ago in game. We'll just get through the pre-match interview, and here is our team as we ran through before. So a few new names on the bench in particular these days: De Jong, Bandok, Tizak, and Velarde. So a couple of changes from last season. In that regard, there are Mainz with their 4-3-3. To be fair, it's not an overly scary looking team, so hopefully we can pick up a result here, especially as this one is at home, and we'll get the action underway. Mainz are in the red. We are in our traditional yellow home uniform with the blue shorts, but coming into the first couple of minutes of this game and still not much has been going on. Mainz so far with the only shot on target. Hopefully that can change soon. We'll encourage the boys, but so far it's actually been a pretty poor performance, making our way up now to the 20-minute mark, and not much doing in the early stages of this game. Just one shot for both teams. Thankfully, our one was on target, but to be fair, didn't see it. But now we get a highlight. Spaljak down that right-hand side plays it to Blome, and hopefully we can take a lead here in this first highlight and really put a good show on here against a team like Mainz, a team that we should be beating. A nice ball forward there from Matthias Tell for young Eneko Benito, but unfortunately he blasts that one wide. A really good chance there for our new central attacking midfielder, but he misses the target. Certainly now, based on stats, we are getting on the front foot, but unfortunately the scoreline is still 0-0, and just past the half-hour mark there is a throw-in for Mainz down that far side, just inside of our half. Nickel plays that one back. They look for Fafana down that right-hand side, but Pittman with a good header away there, and Matthias Tell can tidy things up, so a chance for us here to build out from the back. Peseguelo up to Escobar. Now Blome plays that one back to Hurtado at the moment, just waiting for some gaps to appear so we can get on the front foot. Now Spaljak, nice one to the Vocin. He starts to make his way in behind. He picks out Amadori, takes a touch and puts it away, bottom left corner. I do think he might have been offside there, though the other player was the player who was onside. Not so sure about Amadori, albeit I'm completely wrong, because the goal has been awarded. Nice ball there from Vocin. I thought that player there was onside and Amadori might have been off. I thought that might be another chance there for Benito, but thankfully Amadori, he was onside. Apparently it was so clear cut we don't even need a replay, and the big Italian gets us underway, and shortly off the back of that we'll go looking for him from a corner. He gets on the end of that one. Fuchtel makes a save, but Osvaldo is there at the far post. It's a quick fire double, and we make it 2-0, 10 minutes shy of half time. So off the back of a quiet opening to this game, we go bang bang. Amadori very heavily involved in both of those goals. This time puts that one straight into the path of the goalkeeper, but thankfully he fumbles that one, and Osvaldo is there to tidy things up at the far post, starting to assert some dominance in this game. It's taken a little while. As you can tell, that first half of that game wasn't up to too much, but thankfully we kicked on nicely in the second part of that first half and go into the sheds with that 2-0 lead thanks to that quick fire double from Amadori and Osvaldo. We'll just check on some player fitness here, but off the back of a break. Before this, we do have an international break off the back of deadline day. Everyone out there is doing a decent job and still on a pretty good heart as well, so we won't make any changes. Hopefully can put these guys away early stages of the second half off the back of that double late in the first. So we'll get things back underway with that 2-0 scoreline, and hopefully, as I said, kick on and make sure we pick up 3 points here in front of our home fans, and maybe we can even look to potentially start to rest some players heading in to that first game of the Champions League, hopefully against a team like Legia Warszawa. That is a game that we can be winning even with a little bit of rotation. But coming up tomorrow, as I said, I think we'll come back for Barcelona then. That could be a very interesting test to see just how highly we do rank in the Champions League this season. Apparently, we were a below average team in the Champions League, ranked about 2,000 to 1 before the season started, but early stages in the second half, Matthias Tell will pick up another assist. This time plays a ball over the top for Spaljak. The goalkeeper that time did come out, didn't quite get there, and Spaljak just loops that one over him and puts it in the back of the net through his head, and it does look like we're picking up 3 points from this game. Spaljak, good reactions there as he gets in behind him bomb, and unfortunately for Mainz, their goalkeeper now has made a couple of mistakes, so we make it 3-0, and really that should be all she wrote in this game as we start to make our way towards the hour mark. I was about to check on some player fitness, but Blomé has picked up a yellow card, so they'll be one of our first subs. Also, we'll take off Vochin and give young Horvath some game time in this situation, but obviously Manuel will also come on with that yellow card. And also Benito not doing too well. He's not on a green rating compared to most of the rest of the squad, so Zoran can come on for him, but for now I think that's all we'll do with just over a half hour left, as we just see if this corner off the back of those subs is still going to take place. It looks like it will, just waiting here for some of our players to come off of the field. In fact, they're off the field, but now ones that were coming on have made their way into the mixer. Matthias Tell will go looking here probably for Amadori again at the near post. He picks him out, and this time it goes top right corner. We make it 4-0, just shy of the hour mark. For some reason, our subs there not too excited about that goal. Bit of team spirit, guys, come on. But we do pick up a fourth goal in this one. Nicolo Amadori, he will pick up a double, having gone quite close to a hat-trick, of course, with that first half header, which did find its way to Osvaldo. But Amadori looking very good, so maybe he'll keep that first team starting spot for a bit longer than I was imagining off the back of that injury to the younger version of him in Velado. But there is a highlight here with 20 minutes to go. It's Mainz who do have a throw, but thankfully we win that one back in the air. It's a little bit helter-skelter, but eventually Osvaldo is on the ball now. Pittman, down that left-hand side, he picks up Amadori. He will now be looking for a hat-trick. Matthias Tell plays that one through to Zoran. Good chance for him. It gets bundled off the post and then takes the deflection, nearly goes over the line, but Mainz do clear that one, and it is still 4-0, about to make our way inside the last 20 minutes, and now another corner looking for Amadori near post. Yet again that time, Hurtado, though, gets his head on the end of that one, but unfortunately can't hit the target. Should have probably left that one for the striker, who was looking for a hat-trick. We've got one sub left in this game, and I think we'll take off Escobar because he can get quite injury prone when he does play too much. So we'll bring on Van Dijk in his place, and in fact we still have one more sub, so Dirk de Jong, he can make his debut in place of Andrew Pittman, his first game since coming here from Cologne. So lots of our new signings will get some game time in this one as we start to make our way towards the last 10 minutes, still with that 4-0 lead, and absolutely bettering Mainz now 4-0, as you can tell stats wise, actually matching our XG for once, which was something we didn't do too much at times last season, especially that Europa League semi where we did take on Lons, but that was a good performance. A double to Amadori, one goal in either half to bookend the goals to Osvaldo and to Spaljak. Matthias Tell, he picks up 2 assists in the second half. Also set up a very good chance in the first half for Benitez. He unfortunately blasted that one wide, but thankfully it was not too costly. That is a very good win, and hopefully will give us a bit of confidence going into our first game of the Champions League, which, to be fair, we should have been winning anyway against a team like Legia Warszawa, but that is a good result off the back of an international break. We are back inside the top 4 of the Bundesliga, and also worth noting, Dortmund and Wolfsburg, the only teams who were unbeaten, they dropped points away from home, so that top of the table now is quite close, only 1 point off top spot off the back of that 4-0 win over Mainz. We'll come back shortly and get ready for our first game in the Champions League. So a good result there first up in today's episode. As you can see, we eventually dropped down to 4th behind Bayern Munich as they did pick up a 3-0 win over Cologne. Also Fortuna Dusseldorf, they picked up a win over Hoffenheim the following day, but early stages, we are inside the top 4 on that Bundesliga table, only 1 point off of the teams who are joint on top, and also Matthias Tell having a very good start to the season, as you can see, based on the average rating and player of the match awards. He's got it in all 3 of our wins, so hopefully he signs that new contract quick smart to make sure that if he does leave the club, we do get a decent whack of money. But now it's time for us to turn our attention to the Champions League, the first time that we have been in the Champions League this season. Of course, the last couple of years, we have worked our way up through the Conference League, winning that in last season, making our way into the semis of the Europa League. And first up, we do take on Legia Warszawa. This does look like a pretty winnable fixture for us on the opening day of the competition. They've got some interesting players in their lineup, the likes of Jose Gar at left back, someone of interest in particular. They've also got a Lewandowski, not that one though, and he definitely doesn't have the potential of someone like Robert, but this does look like a very winnable game for us at home on the opening day of the Champions League seasons. Hopefully we can pick up 3 more points here, because off the back of this, things do get a lot more interesting, as you saw before, against the likes of Barcelona, Napoli, and a couple of teams from the Premier League. Sika comes back in for this one. Also, we are going to start Velarde up front in place of Amadorian. As well as that, we are going to give a chance to Danny Hermel at right wing, because still our new signing in Tezak is only recommended for 45 minutes. We'll give our youngster homegrown club player in Danny Hermel the chance to feature. Also, our entire first team is registered for the Champions League this season, because we've got the likes now of Sebastian Escobar, who is also homegrown club, and as well as that, a couple of other players who are in the last year of becoming homegrown club are under the age of 21. So thankfully, we've been able to register all players for the first time since we have been in Europe here at Lokomotive Leipzig, and there's the team that's going to lead us out for this first game in the Champions League. Big crowd here at the RB Arena. Of course, Red Bull Leipzig also in the Champions League this season. They picked up a win the day prior to this one, so it's a double here in Leipzig on this first match day of the Champions League, and hopefully we can pick up a win against that Legia Warszawa outfit. As you saw before, they don't look too scary apart from that Jose Gar at left back. Otherwise, we should be dealing with them, and even then, Jose Gar at this point of the save, 10 years in the future, probably not quite as good as he would be at the start of a save. We'll get the action underway here, hopefully conceal the nerves nice and early. And an early throw in here down this left-hand side. Escobar, he is on the ball, tries to cut inside, but Grubara does win the ball off him, but thankfully we get it back through Blome. Now Sika on the edge of the box. He gets brought down from Jose Gar. I think that might just be inside the box. It's a bit hard to tell on that side of the pitch. If it was the near one, we'd have a better idea, but VAR is going to check that penalty, and thankfully it does get awarded, so a chance here for Matthias Tell to score our first goal in the Champions League. It is from the spot. He put one of these away, of course, in that win over Eintracht Frankfurt. The goalkeeper goes the right way, but thankfully it still sneaks past him, and we take a nicely 1-0 lead in this game, and hopefully now we can kick on a bit and make sure we pick up 3 points in this opening match day. That is a terrible angle or zoom from the director. He needs to be fired, but thankfully Tell did put that one away, and we do grab a 1-0 lead. Now Escobar has picked up a yellow card, so we'll just get him to ease off tackles. We might take him off in the second half because of that for our loanee signing, but now we're on the attack again from Efrain Benito. We'll try and rocket that one into the back of the net, but unfortunately that one comes off the crossbar. He's had a couple of decent chances so far in today's episode. That one was a bit long range, but went close. Unfortunately, doesn't quite find its way into the back of the net, so it's still 1-0, but we are certainly so far the more dominant team, as you would expect in this situation. So hopefully that can continue and we can score a cushion goal at some stage, as we just passed the halfway mark in this first half and still only up by 1-0. Legia Warszawa have got a shot off now. A free kick here. Matthias Tell loops that one towards the far post for Blome, but unfortunately a little bit too far out there to get that here on target. And shortly off the back of that, this one certainly better range now for a direct free kick. Matthias Tell tries to put that one top right corner. It comes off that top right corner and then comes off the crossbar, so that one hits the post twice. But unfortunately, Matthias Tell can't quite pick up a double, and now we're getting late here into the first half, still only up by 1-0. Hopefully can make it 2-0 before we do enter the break, like we did in that previous Bundesliga game where we did take on Mainz. Now Matthias Tell starts to get him behind here down that left-hand side. He takes on the shot, actually fought there. He could have squared that one for the new Italian striker in Velarde, but unfortunately just drags that one wide. We'll actually demand more and see if that does get the guys to react well. It doesn't, which is a bit surprising because this is a game it feels like we should be leading by more than 1 goal, but that is the case going to halftime, only up 1-0 thanks to that early penalty through Matthias Tell. Lots of chances off the back of that, but unfortunately haven't put the ball in the back of net. Through open play, Bundok will come on for Escobar at halftime with that yellow card situation. But everyone else out there is doing a decent job, and also quite good to give some players like Danny Hermel and Velarde some game time here in a situation where things do look fairly comfortable, but with only that 1-goal scoreline, that could change during the second half. So we'll save a couple of subs up just in case we do need to come back and make sure we can grab 3 points from this game if Legia Warszawa do grab an equaliser. Good work there from Hermel and Blome from that throw, and now Hummel will get that ball back for us, plays it up to Velarde, hopefully a chance for us here to grab a cushion goal nice and early in the second half. Benito, good tackle there on him, but thankfully does still keep position, puts that one far post for Matthias Tell. Really should be looking for Velarde being the exact same height as Amadori. That is the reason we quite like him as an option to come in for him, especially from set piece, but unfortunately Velarde has been a bit quiet so far as we make our way towards the hour mark, and it is still only 1-0. We'll take off the players on average rating, so Camillo can come on for Hurtado at the back, and also we might actually take off Velarde on a 6.5. Unfortunately, not quite performing as well as I was hoping, so Amadori can get a half hour, and also we'll take off Matthias Tell just to make sure he doesn't get injured. For Tunde Mooses with a half hour left, we are still up by 1-0 and still have one sub off our sleeves, and off the back of trying to make those subs, there is a highlight here that has begun. We're just knocking the ball about here on the edge of the box, try and loop that one over the top, but it does find its way back to the Legia Warszawa goalkeeper, and this highlight is going to continue. Hopefully they don't score off the back of this. I don't think they will. It gets flicked on there, and Nwazi will take a long-range shot. Must have thought there that San Jose was off his line a bit more than he actually was. That one sails well and truly over the bar. Thankfully, not much of a highlight, and we are still up by 1-0, but certainly haven't put this game to bed yet, and now we finally get a set piece. This would have been nice when Velarde was on the field. We look for Amadori. Good save there from the Legia Warszawa goalkeeper, and then Camillo up the far post. Can't put it away like Osvaldo did in that first game, but a big save there from the opposition goalkeeper to keep it at 1-0. Now just checking on what we might do here with our final sub with just over 15 minutes left, and I think we might take off Inako on a bit more of a deep yellow heart, and only on a 6.9, so Zoran can come on for him, and hopefully that might just help us grab a cushion goal in these last 15 minutes, because we're certainly leaving the door open here for Legia to walk away from something from this game, which would be a little bit of a disaster. Wouldn't be too bad this early in the Champions League, but this alongside the Basel game does look like one we should be picking up maximum points from in the competition this year, and off the back of that, those other games do look a little bit more tricky. We almost get ourselves into trouble there at the back. Thankfully, Camillo somehow found Blomé, and now we get a chance here to do something. We eventually make our way into the opposition half. Nice switch out there to Sika. That one goes in behind. Good chance for Amadori, but again, that's a big save from the Legia Warszawa goalkeeper. He's come up with some really good saves since Amadori has come on the field. Still only up by 1-0. Hopefully, from the set piece, Amadori can make it 2-0 to make sure we pick up 3 points from this opening game. Now, Spasijevic, he does nearly pick out Amadori, but unfortunately can't quite find him. Amadori that time at the far post, and that one has gone over the bar, and also Hummel apparently was offside. We now make our way into the last 10 minutes of this game, and we'll just start to time waste a little bit, and also tell our guys to be more disciplined, just to hopefully make sure these guys don't find an equaliser.
Yeah.
And that could be an issue. Justin Blomé has picked up an injury, so because of that, we'll drag Spasijevic back to play in a more central midfield area instead of a more attacking one. We'll put him on a box-to-box midfielder, and hopefully that might just make sure we don't miss him too much. But down to 10 men the last 5 or so minutes of this game is not ideal. We'll also put our wingers and fullbacks on support off the back of that, and hopefully that doesn't prove costly. That would be a pretty harsh way to get denied points in this game if Legia Warszawa do manage to score an equaliser. And we're taking some time here on this corner, and Amadori with another header, but yet again the Legia Warszawa goalkeeper comes up with a very good save. To be fair, Amadori only on a 6.3, so maybe would have been better leaving Velarde on the field, but thankfully Legia Warszawa haven't done too much in attack, and we pick up 3 points on the opening day of the Champions League season, albeit it did come from the penalty spot, and our XG shows that we really should have scored more goals in that game, but thankfully we just do enough to make sure we pick up 3 points, as I said, even if it did come from the penalty spot early in that game. We'll tell the guys a win's a win, but definitely need to raise our performance, especially in our next Champions League game, which is only a week from now when we do take on Barcelona. That could be tough. We'll come back for that one in tomorrow's episode, but thankfully in a very winnable looking game on paper, we pick up 3 points from it. We'll come back off the back of this and check in on that injury on Justin Blomé. We start off the Champions League fairly well with an opening day win at home over Legia Warszawa. So it was a lot closer than it should have been, but thankfully we do get the job done there on the opening day of the Champions League season, and now things do start to get a lot more serious in our next couple of games in that competition, but thankfully 2 wins from those 2 games in today's episode does now mean we're in a pretty good spot in both competitions, albeit still early days in the Champions League, but already inside the top 4 in the Bundesliga. But the one concern that did come from that game, a potential injury to Justin Blomier. It's a twisted ankle, so to be fair, it's not too serious, but he will be out for 3 to 4 weeks. So that does mean that Manuel will have to start in that balling midfield role. And then behind that, we might have to call up someone in the meantime from our under-19 team, or we can potentially play someone like Escobar or our new signing in Bandok in that role while Blomier is out, especially in the Champions League. Also get some nice money as well for that win in the Champions League, certainly a bit more than we were getting for our wins back down in the Conference League and the Europa League last season. But that will do it for today's episode, the recap of what did happen at the end of the transfer window, and also those 2 games with wins over Mainz and also quite narrowly over Legia Warszawa. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. As I said, we'll come back tomorrow and I think we'll take on Barcelona in the Champions League. That one is also at home, so hopefully we might find a way to pick up points, but that will be a lot easier said than done. And also we'll take on Schalke. Those guys, early stages, doing okay in the Bundesliga this season, so we'll come back tomorrow, take on Barca in the Champions League and Schalke in the Bundesliga, and off the back of that, I think we might actually kick on a bit off the back of that episode and might come back around the time of Bayern and Napoli, because October does look like a pretty quiet month. But we'll come back tomorrow, take on Barca in the Champions League and Schalke in the Bundesliga. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
Thought I could do this, left through the sadness. Don't know how I ended up so lost. Sink through the deep end.